Hi there, it's Trevor Davis from Our Father's House. Just on finance, and we had a look at tithing in our last snippet, but I just want to take you to a passage really, or passages of Scripture, there's many of them, and deal with the subject of interest. The Bible calls it usury, that's U-S-E-R-Y. Usury is interest in our language today. Is God concerned about us lending money? Well, no, he's not. Is he concerned about us helping one another that are within the faith? Yes, he is. Is he concerned about the poor? Well, yes, he is. What about those who fall on bad times? Is he interested in them? Well, yes, he is. So who does he use to be able to build up, to pick somebody up and help them along the way? Well, here we see the scripture. I think just to set this into a scene, I want to just have a look at something in particular. In fact, I might just refer you to a scripture, just the basis of this, and it's in Leviticus chapter 25. He says this: if your brother, Israelite here in this context, this is from the Amplified Bible, if your brother has become poor and his hand he falls into poverty or sickness or older age and is unable to support himself, then you shall uphold or strengthen or relieve him, treating him with the courtesy and consideration that you would a stranger or a temporary resident with you without property, so that he may live along with you. So charge him no interest or proportion of increase, but fear your God, so that your brother may continue to live along with you. You shall not give him any of your money at interest, or lend him food at a profit. Now, that's the basis. I want to just share this for a minute and just think back, and this would probably sum up very clearly to understand God's perspective. He looked at the children of Israel. They're caught here in bondage in Egypt. They are slaves. They are burdened. Many of them obviously fall sick. Some fall dead in all of that. And that's the condition. And then God comes along, raises up Moses, and what God does is deliver them from their place of bondage, their place of restraint, their place of poorness, if you like, and he takes them out and he brings them into a land that flows with milk and honey. It becomes their land. And we can go through a lot of aspects of that, but to understand here what God is saying, that now that as you progress down the way, and some of them fall ill along the way, or they get old along the way, or they don't have support along the way, or they are without finances along the way, and you have the ability to help them or to lend them or to encourage them, is to do it out of compassion and don't charge them interest. There's a principle here. Because if you begin to have a look at the scripture and we look into the talents of the 5, the 2 and the 1, we see that the Lord rebuked the one who had the 1 talent and said to him, well, why didn't you lend my money to those that are outside and at least give me some interest on what I have lent you? So there's a right and a wrong. So what is the right and wrong? The right is that if we see our brother, our brethren, so we're now in the context of today, we're talking about those that are in the Christian faith, or those that are in the church. Those in the Old Testament was those of Israel, his people, and we see that God now setting them free. This is where the basis of this has all been set. And he says, well, okay, they're now free, you are free. What you have got, because I have given it to you, then if somebody else falls by the wayside, help them up. That's what he's talking about. It would be a good scripture in the New Testament as one of the Samaritan. Remember, he went and he actually paid the debt of the man that had fallen ill by the way, who'd been robbed, etc. He didn't say, well, I'll lend, and when you're well and so on, come back and bring me the money. No. So the principle was that he gave what he had to meet the need of somebody that had fallen by the way. So does interest to pray. This is a simple application to interest to understand it. Exodus 22 says, if you lend money to any of my people that is poor by you, then thou shalt not be to him as a interest gatherer or a usurer. Neither shall you lay interest upon him. So he's encouraging him to help him. Maybe you lend to somebody, but not burden him with the interest that's applied to that. Leviticus 25 says, take no interest or no usury of him by increase, but fear God that your brother may live with you. Leviticus 25:37. Thou shalt not give him your money upon interest, nor lend him the victuals of interest. So lend him the things that you have, your assets, and say, well, I'll lend you all of this, but I'm going to put a charge on it. See, this is now, we're talking about brothers, we're talking about family, we're talking about the family, God's family. So it's helping them. Deuteronomy 23:20 says, unto a stranger you may lend upon interest, but unto your brother you shall not lend with interest, that the Lord God may bless you in all that you set your hand to. So now he's saying, so there's a right and a wrong. So can I just kind of summarize this in this kind of a context? Because this is important. Interest is gain on what we have. We understand through this series of studies, God is the one who gives us strength to get wealth. We get wealth, and now you're saying, well, if you've got the ability to help somebody now along the way, you should help them. If it's somebody that's within the faith, the household of faith, the people of God, the Christian or the church, whatever that is, and you have the ability to help them, he says, then go ahead and do it, but don't charge them interest, so that the blessing of God might come upon you. Okay, that's one. Then he says to others, to a stranger, lend it to them and charge interest. So now, setting this in the context of the New Testament, referring to the principle of this, it's like he's saying to his people, lend to one another to help one another at no additional cost. Because what you have is because of what I've given you anyway. See? So don't burden somebody else with the interest. The other aspect of that is go into the world though, and if you are lending money to the world, so that could be our banking institutions, it could be things in the world, could be investment, he said go and charge some interest. No problem with that. It's who we charge interest for. And it's if we're helping our brothers and our sisters out, then there should not be an interest applied to that. Years ago I had a situation, I was in business. This person had only just become a Christian, a early stage of his walk with God, I guess, and he had a need. His wife, they had a young baby, came in to the house at this time, and he had a real need. He was potentially going to lose his house because of not paying his mortgage. Well, we lent him some money, a substantial amount of money. He did not pay it back. He did not pay as per the agreement. We didn't charge him interest. We just loaned him the money for him to come and to pay it back. Over time, that money was not paid back. Sought legal counsel, legal advice, and we got an agreement between both parties that he would pay it, and we just pay it over time. That's okay. Still no burden of interest, and so on. He paid his first payment, maybe his first two, and then he didn't pay after that. So I sought counsel. What should we do? And in the context here, the counsel was given to us, so we should enforce the legal contract that had been put together, agreement between us, and we have the right to go into his house, and if he can't pay the money, to take out of his house anything of value to the value of the debt. We could take that. Well, how would you feel about that? I mean, look at it in the context of here. We helped him. He didn't honour his agreement. Should we go to the law? Should we further go to the law? Should we go to his house and extract from him what he has? No, we didn't. We didn't. We saw the principle here that God was our provider. God enabled us to enable him, to enable them to get on with life. He now has a debt, not to me, but actually to God, because what we gave to him was what God had given to us. Do we understand that? So it's not for us to go out here and to deal with all that, and you can have a look at the scripture in relation to the man that God had forgiven much debt to, and went out and he then charged others for that same debt that had been incurred towards him. I mean, we can't do that. So this is about interest. It's about how we use our money. It's the right and wrong use of money. It's how we do it, how we work with it. But the kingdoms of God, the principles of God are about taking what we have, understanding that He is our provider, understanding His grace is His enabler, understanding that His word and His promise that He'll bless, He will do it, including our interest in what you have in finance. So if you today are in that position, can I encourage you to see that what you have belongs to God? That's the first thing. Many people today lend money to churches, but it's with an interest. No, we should not do that. We don't lend God money and charge Him interest. We actually give Him what we have to enable Him to use it and to use us. I trust this is helpful. If you want a little bit more understanding on this, just send me an email. I'll send you some notes there on interest, usury referred to in the Old Testament, and that'll just help you if you wish to do that. Send me a note anyway. I'd love to hear from you. Click on subscribe and you will know of the next session coming your way. God bless you.